Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, Winnipeg Jets fans. My name's Ty Dilello. I'm the host here at Game Over Winnipeg, and we are celebrating once again our 10th victory of the season tonight. As the Winnipeg Jets had a beautiful 6-2 win on the road over the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Jets are now the first team in the NHL to hit 10 wins on the season, and it feels pretty great to be a Jets fan right now. As the Jets are firmly the team with the hottest start so far in the NHL. Let's get right into it. Nikolai Ehlers led the way tonight with a hat trick and one assist. Love Ehlers. Gabriel Vilardi had a goal. Appleton scored, and Morrissey had 1+1. So the offense was kind of spread around. Eric Comrie was in net tonight, and he stopped 20 shots on 20. He made 20 saves on 22 shots. So he improves to 3-0 on the year, and I improved to I believe 8-0. I think I'm 8-0 now on the year or 7-0 when I do these shows. So the Jets are still undefeated when yours truly is here. So let's keep it up. I'm gonna be away after the show for about 4 shows while I'm curling in Ontario. So hopefully the Jets can kind of pull through without me. But there we go. What do we see from tonight's game? I saw the Jets kind of come in and play a solid road game, kind of like the game the other night, where the first line kind of started scoring right away. It felt like very similar feel. This time it was Nick Ehlers who just kind of got the offense going for the Jets in that first period, and they the Jets quickly showed why they're a top team so far this year. I've sometimes felt in years past how the Jets when they play against maybe a lesser team as them on paper, they're a little slow out of the gates. They kind of don't get their offense going until the third period sometimes, and just being notorious slow starters. But once again for the second straight game, they came out guns a-blazing. I felt. We could talk maybe the first line 5-on-5. Connor Scheifele, Vilardi wasn't great in the first 20-40 minutes of the contest, but up and down the lineup, I thought it was a pretty solid game from the Jets. And I'll also say I didn't think Columbus was very good at all tonight. They didn't really put up much of a fight. I believe the Jets had maybe double, I think the shots were maybe 44-22 when it was all said and done. Which I was a little bit surprised to see. I was surprised to see that a little bit, as Columbus has been kind of one of the stories, I would say, in the National Hockey League this year. I believe their record kind of coming into this was 5-3-1, something like that, 5-4, so a winning record, when most people would have picked them to be another lottery team, especially with the loss of their star player Johnny Gaudreau, who we'll talk about a little bit later on in the show. It was a little bit surprising to kind of see what Columbus's game was like tonight, as I think they've showed a lot better than that so far this season. But at the same time, the Winnipeg Jets were dominant. They showed exactly why they're 10-1 this year. They looked kind of light years better than Columbus. They were faster. They're moving the puck up the ice better. They're making a lot of good plays. The puck possession was great. The defensive side of the game was great once again. Logan Stanley didn't have any errors or penalties that cost us goals. So it was a very good night for the Jets. So let's kind of get into an ad read now and talk about our title sponsor, which is Hyperdrive Hockey. Where you can check out the flagship show of Game Over Network on the Game Over Network channel, which is Hyperdrive Hockey, of course, all things hockey across various leagues in multiple countries. Whatever it is and wherever it is, Max, Daphne, and Kev have you covered for all your hockey news with a steady dose of fun and fan engagement. You can find Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts on the Hyperdrive hockey page at thegameovernetwork.com. So check them out. They're posting stuff. I see it up on the YouTube page. It seems daily during the week. They make a lot of good content, and they even touch on us, the Jets, which is nice because we haven't gotten a ton of love so far here on the Game Over Network. It's just me and Brendan doing the Game Over recap shows. I think we finally hired someone to do the Game On shows, which are weekdays. We'll talk about at a future ad read this show. So yeah, we'd love to see the Jets kind of get more love here as we're Canada's best team and the NHL's best team right now. So let's kind of get into maybe some Nikolai Ehlers talk. Wow, he's impressive. Hat trick tonight, was flying out there. It's really something. When Nikolai Ehlers is going. Obviously, notoriously throughout his career in the playoffs, maybe he hasn't been going, every night. He's kind of a streaky player, a streaky scorer. But when he's on his game, he's definitely one of the most dynamic players to watch in the league, I think. He's just so fast, so shifty, like a great, deceptive quick release, great shot. And then when he's kind of feeling the defensive side, he can even kind of break up some plays and kind of help out on both sides of the ice, which is nice. Something I'm sure the coaching staff would like to see more of. But, I really enjoy Nikolai Ehlers' game tonight. I'm kind of like I'm getting a bit of a lump in my throat, kind of thinking about him possibly not being on the team anymore. Next year, obviously his contract runs out after this season. He'll be an unrestricted free agent. He's been kind of very hush-hush in the media about his future plans. Ehlers was a big trade chip, someone whose name came up in trade talks, I think, a lot over the last offseason, but there was nothing, I guess, strong enough for Cheveldayoff to pull the trigger on. I think a big fear for Jets fans would be if Nikolai Ehlers plays out the rest of the season in Winnipeg, and then just walks, at season's end and leaves and goes and signs somewhere for $8+ million, what he's worth on the open market. I think that would upset a lot of Jets fans. So I think games like tonight really show, just how valuable he is and how much we want to keep him. I'd love him to get to play more, in the lineup, more up the lineup. Something he hasn't really done in his career is be kind of a full-time first line player. So it's something that, potentially could happen, I think, this season if we flip around maybe some of the lines. But I think what he's got kind of going on right now is working, obviously, for him with a hat trick tonight. I see Brendan Labarre in the chat, my fellow host and our one person watching. Woo, let's go Jets! Yes, yeah, it feels good. Obviously, once again, 10-1. We're very happy. We're pumped up, and we're just kind of getting into some Nikolai Ehlers talk. It's just nights like this. I feel like I'm happy. I'm always excited when Nikolai Ehlers scores, but I'm a little bit I'm nervous. I'm a little bit just sad at the prospect of him leaving. We kind of saw this, kind of play out with his best friend, Patrick Laine, him, another big, Scandinavian star that the Jets had, left town, and I think that left a sour taste in some Jets fans' mouths. And I really hope that Cheveldayoff and Ehlers can kind of get something done during the season, extend him, pay him the 8 times 6 or whatever he's whatever he's worth. I think Ehlers is a guy who's kind of committed to Winnipeg lots over his career. He's happy playing in this city, which isn't a given. Some of the younger players in the league. So I'm firmly on the keep Ehlers train. And yeah, nights like tonight, we show that we really appreciate him, and really appreciate him in town. So let's get another ad read out of the way with LaRouche, which is a French name. Yeah, Game Over Network is an independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode, you'll find a link to our Patreon page. And we're also working on a page through LaRouche, which is a crowdfunding platform for companies based in Quebec, which is why I've probably never heard of it, being smack dab in the center of Canada in Winnipeg. But at LaRouche, and for LaRouche, Game Over, we're kind of hoping to raise $15,000. And if we hit that goal, we'll gain access to government grants that will allow us to employ more people, and just provide more content, get more Game Over Network stuff out there on social media, on Twitter, more newsy stuff along the way, because we're growing. It's been very impressive. We're about not even a month into the season, and I've for someone that's new to doing video podcast thing. I'm slowly learning, as you can tell. I'm not the best in front of the camera, but there's a lot of quality people here at the Game Over Network. Andrew Berkshire and some of the other people that have been here for a while have done a really great job of building this brand, and I'm excited to be here and just what it can go to, for the rest of the season and just in the future. Hopefully Game Over Network becomes kind of one of those primary stops that people go to when they check out, try to get their hockey fix. And yeah, let's go to the next period. I wanted to talk, since that we played Columbus, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about Columbus, just because I've always kind of had I have Brendan in the chat. Give him the money, Ehlers. Yes, give him the money, give him the bag, whatever it is to keep him. He's a star player that wants to, play in Winnipeg and stay here. That's good enough for me. Give him Sean Monahan's money too. That we were going to pay Monahan in the off season. He eventually left to Columbus, and I will talk about that as well. So. The Columbus Blue Jackets, who the Jets played tonight. Columbus is, overachieving. It feels like a little bit this year. With the record of now, I think they're 5-4-1. Winning record. New head coach Dean Evison. Sean Monahan, new number one center for Columbus, who was with the Jets. We got him, a little bit before the trade deadline last year. I'm a Jets fan, but I also you want teams like Columbus to be successful, and really they've been kicked in the teeth, so much over these last, 10, 15 years, as a franchise. They had some really rough beginnings in their first couple of years. They got Rick Nash in the draft that one year in 2003, and there were some decent times, but they never were able to break through. Then they had another stretch where they were, another basement team, never got a lottery pick, and then they acquired some star players, not through the draft, but all kind of via trade. When they had Artemi Panarin, Sergei Bobrovsky, Matt Duchene, Seth Jones, and Columbus was a contender for maybe about a 4-year stretch. Pierre-Luc Dubois in that mix. Where Columbus, they were a 50 win team for a couple of years. They won a couple of playoff rounds. They beat Tampa Bay one year, and they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs one year in the playoffs. And kind of things were looking good. But then all their star players walked. They left. Panarin went to New York. Bobrovsky went to Florida. Duchene went to Nashville, and kind of Columbus was kind of left high and dry once again, and they once again had to kind of restock their cupboards in the draft, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. They had some personal tragedy when Matisse Kivlenieks passed away a couple summers ago in a very tragic accident on the 4th of July. And then the whole Mike Babcock hiring situation, which turned out to be a total thing that kind of blew up in that organization's face. And then, Johnny Gaudreau, a superstar player in the National Hockey League, chose Columbus in free agency. He had his pick of the litter of places he could have played with across the National Hockey League, and he chose Columbus, which is not a market for free agents. Has never been like a destination where players want to go. And Johnny Gaudreau chose Columbus. Signed his ticket there. Moved his family there. And has been there. Was their number one left winger. Last season, and was going to be a big face of that franchise to hopefully turn it around and become a playoff team again. And then, of course, we all know about the terrible accident that took Johnny and his brother's life. Just horrible. And now, once again, Columbus is having to restock the cupboards. It seems like they're not going to be a good team for a while. I believe Sean Monahan chose Columbus over Winnipeg. I believe the money offered was very similar between Columbus and Winnipeg, but Monahan ultimately chose Columbus so he could play with his best friend Johnny Gaudreau. Johnny Ham and Cheese once again, and then for him to pass away, it's no words. There's no words for that, but it's just another thing, for this Columbus Blue Jackets franchise that has been a big, just a kick in the teeth. It's been a tough ride for Columbus. I really, really hope, obviously we're big Jets fans, but I think, hockey fans in general, hope this franchise is able to have some success down the road. And looking at them tonight, it doesn't look like they're anywhere close. Unfortunately, I hope they can turn it around. I hope they can, win a lottery pick. Like the Columbus has never, aside from the Rick Nash, they've never picked, first overall, and they were the favorite to win the first overall pick. I think a couple of times they didn't get it. A Connor Bedard, like one of these, first overall draft picks, could have done, wonders for this franchise, and we could be looking at Columbus in a totally different light. So yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Columbus, as I feel, bad for this franchise. I want them to succeed and do better because they've had a really tough go, pretty much throughout their entire, tenure in the National Hockey League. And, I know they have great fans. I know they have great support. I believe that franchise is in no danger of moving from Columbus, which is great because, if all that's, if that, I think a lot of other markets, wouldn't be able to kind of survive, the things that Columbus has had to go through. So, nothing but the best for Columbus. Now moving on, I'll do another ad read. I'm sure you'd like me talking more about the Jets, but I kind of got a soft spot in my heart for Columbus and always have. Game on now. Game on Winnipeg, which we don't have yet here. So Game Over, what you're watching right now, has you covered after the game. But in order to get ready to watch the Jets, you've got to get your Game On too. Game On Winnipeg is a short-form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the Winnipeg Jets. Debuting soon, hopefully next week. I've been saying that every goddamn show. But yeah, debuting hopefully next week here on the Game Over Winnipeg channel. You can kind of get all of your Jets news in under 10 minutes, Monday through Friday, on the Game Over Winnipeg YouTube channel and in podcast form, which you can find at thegameovernetwork.com/pages/Winnipeg. We got no one in the chat besides my man Brendan Labarre. He said, and when they pick Ty, they get guys like Ryan Murray, good player but not a game changer. Kent Johnson's finding his way. Dubois wants out right away. Or guys like Chinikov, like middle six players. Alex Texier. They just these top kind of 20 picks they do haven't really panned out yet, so to speak. Fingers crossed. Cole Sillinger turns out to be a player. I think Adam Fantilli, could be a good player for sure down the road. He just needs a supporting cast. I'm really excited about Denton Matejchuk from Dominion City, Manitoba. who I think who's going to be a very good player. David Juracek as well can be a good defenseman if he wants to play in Columbus. I don't think he was too happy last season about being sent down to the minors. But Columbus, they have prospects. That's the thing. They have prospects. Let's see what they can do. Let's see how they can develop these guys, whether in the AHL or in junior or playing in the NHL, as they've done with Sillinger at 18, Chinikov at 19 and stuff. Voronkov, another young player. So I think that they have the pieces potentially moving forward. Let's see what happens with them. Overtime, to kind of close out the show, since we got nothing really going on in the chat besides my co-host Brendan. This is a book I wrote, Hockey Hotbeds, by myself. The foreword was by Kevin Weeks. This was the first book I ever wrote. If I can look at I wrote in 2014, which is 10 years ago now, and since then I've written 8 books in the last 10 years. This was my first one. Hockey Hotbeds was a book about hockey towns from around the world, where I would kind of interview, players, new, current, and old, kind of from certain hockey towns from around the world. So, places like, it goes from everywhere from Winnipeg to Kazakhstan, Usk-Magnitogorsk, to Ukraine, Kiev, Sweden, Russia, Lithuania, Scotland, Norway, like all Reykjavik, Iceland. There were a ton of countries that were covered in this book, and I enjoyed kind of interviewing these players from around the world, which was cool. So I thought I'd read a little excerpt from it because I just remember that I'd interviewed like a very young 18 or 19-year-old Elvis Merzlikins for this book, for the chapter on Riga, Latvia. And it kind of slipped my mind that I had interviewed Merzlikins. He's obviously Columbus's starting goaltender. He's had a pretty good start to the year this season. Didn't do too well tonight, obviously, and he's not a very good fantasy hockey goaltender. And I'm not sold that Columbus is going to do anything good with him in net in the long term. But he's an NHL goaltender, no less, from Latvia. Latvia is a great country. My wife is Latvian. Cool fact. So I've definitely have a soft spot for any Latvian hockey players, and I support their national team. I got a couple of jerseys, a couple Latvian jerseys in the closet. So in this book, I wrote Elvis Merzlikins is a goaltender with Lugano of the Swiss League. As a Latvian goalie, he was an import player in the Swiss League. That was where he developed. He didn't actually kind of play in Latvia, since he was an early teenager. He moved to Switzerland with his mom, I believe, and then kind of grew up playing there. So he actually started playing hockey at 6 or 7, and Elvis began as a defenseman. Elvis says that when I started playing defense, I would save every puck that came towards me. So afterwards, my mom asked me if I wanted to try being a goalie. So I tried for 1 year and decided to stick with it. So Elvis spent about 8 years in Lugano. He told one funny story to me. After, I think for one of the traditions for, playing in Lugano with that team, his team had a tradition of going on trips after the year. To various spots around Europe. And 1 year they went to the Spanish city of Barcelona. And Elvis says, after every season my team goes on vacation for a few days, and this year we went to Barcelona. We all checked out a karaoke bar, and I sang an Elvis Presley song. And before I started singing, one of the guys shouted, "Elvis is back in the building." And then Elvis had a chuckle. So Elvis has always been a very colorful, person, colorful personality. He's has never been afraid to kind of speak his mind on stuff. And I remember that when I interviewed him when he was only 18 or 19, he was very animated, and I think at the time he was thrilled that someone from North America was talking with him about his hockey career. I wanted to know who thought maybe that he had a future in the NHL, as I did. I followed his career kind of intently back in Switzerland, and I was very happy to see him make it. So, Elvis, I hope you can kind of turn it around and help steer the ship in the right direction for Columbus, but I think you got your work cut out for you. Brendan says, what's the best hockey book you've ever read? I'm looking at my bookshelves, right here. I got about 150 books. I got 8 of them are mine. As we're Winnipeggers, I'll pull out the autobiography on Terry Sawchuk. Brendan, give it a read. Sawchuk, I still think's the greatest goaltender of all time, for all everything that he kind of had to go through, to be the greatest goaltender in the world. The greatest goaltender that the NHL ever seen when he played in the early 50s. Sawchuk carried the Detroit Red Wings to 3 Stanley Cups. He won another one later in his career with Toronto. He won 4 Vezinas. He was considered an innovator, and he did that with severe depression, severe alcoholism. He had broken his arm as a 10-year-old, and it never healed properly, and so he couldn't move his arm like that. He couldn't actually move his arm one way, so his teammates would have to tie his skates before every game, because he couldn't actually bend down and physically tie them up. So he really went through a lot, to be the best goalie, and I still think his records kind of stand up today. So that's a book I recommend. Sawchuk, The Troubles and Triumphs of the World's Greatest Goalie by David Dupuis. Good book. Tells us a great story of a great Winnipegger's life. Since I'm an author, maybe I'll kind of bring more books out in the future. But for now, I guess we'll wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show on the 6-2 victory for the Winnipeg Jets over the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Winnipeg Jets are back in action on, I believe Sunday at 2 o'clock against the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Jets are back at home. I won't be here. Braden won't be here, who is now missing the last 2 games with me. I don't know what he's up to. But Brendan Labarre will be here. Brendan's going to be taking over for the next 4 Jets games, I believe, as I am headed off in the morning. I'm off to St. Catharines, Ontario. I'm curling in the Canadian National Mixed Championship for Team Manitoba. So that's going to be pretty exciting, as we're going to try to hopefully win a national championship, have some fun out in St. Catharines. St. Catharines is only about a 20-minute drive from Buffalo, so if kind of the schedule works out, hopefully maybe go down and see a Buffalo Sabres game would be cool. Check out Niagara Falls, check out the sites. So I'm looking forward to that. But Brendan's gonna have you covered. Brendan's very good at doing these post-game shows. He's got a great setup. So if we have any viewers, they'll definitely enjoy watching his show on Sunday. So thank you once again for tonight's show. My name's Ty Dilello here at Game Over Winnipeg. I'm glad we had you. 10-1 feels good. I didn't think we could have this start to the season, so I thought maybe the Jets would kind of be a middling wildcard team this year, but playing like a contender, playing like a pretty good contender at this point. We'll see when we start playing some tougher teams, how that holds up, but you can only kind of play the team in front of you, as I learned in my sports career myself. So take care, guys. Have a good night, and we'll see you guys again. Okay.